Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Beat Your Addiction with John Giordano. I'm your co-host, Scott Jones. I want to thank everybody for joining us and remind you throughout this show and whenever you want more information, the easiest way is to go to johnjgiordano.com. That J is the initial J, just like you see on the screen. johnjgiordano.com, and you can learn more about what John does and all the different projects he's involved in. And there's a lot of great stuff out there. John, how you doing, my friend?
Let me tell you, if I do any better, I got to, pinch myself, with the new clinic that I opened up, the ketamine clinic for depression, anxiety, addiction, all that. It's like going unbelievable. And I just love watching people get well. And that's why we invite different guests on with different modalities to help people to get well. And that's what this show's about. It's the latest and the greatest technologies that are evidence-based. So why don't we just see Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to bring in our guest, and he's joining us from up in the Toronto area. That's Canada for those of you who are geographically challenged. It's not Toronto, Ohio. And Luke is a hypnotherapist, and we're going to bring him in right now. Luke, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Any better, and I'd need to be arrested. How you guys doing?
Yeah, I know what you mean. We'll get arrested together.
There you go. Probably in a Canadian prison. I think it would be a tiny bit kinder than an American prison.
Yes.
I got to ask Luke, and again, this is Luke Howard. Thank you for joining us, but I got to ask, the accent is not a Canadian accent. I'm going to guess that you're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah, I was going to do my best New Jersey accent, but it's too early. I was there actually last year. I am from London, England, originally.
Oh, okay. I have friends in there. I have friends there.
Oh, yeah? Sorry about that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Those Brits.
All right, so, I'm going to step out of the way and let you and John talk about this stuff, but just to let everybody know that while you're watching the show, or, tell you what, wait till after the show. Once the show's over, make sure you check out on the internet, Lukenosis.com. It's right there, Lukenosis.com. And all of the services and everything he's talking about will be highlighted right there on his website. But you and John both have a lot in common about your beliefs and about helping people. So why don't you guys take it away?
All right, go ahead, Luke. Take it away. Tell us what you do.
I call myself a clinical hypnotist because I've been doing this for 25 years, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Well, 17 actually. But I'd use a lot of different modalities to help people. So I've got, over 20 certifications in hypnosis. But really, I'm a bit like an MMA, mixed martial artist, but of the self-help world. So I'll go to hypnosis and I'll get skills from great hypnotists. And then I'll go to counselors and I'll get great skills, model great skills from counselors or CBT practitioners or NLPers or healers, Reiki healers. I'll see what they're doing, what's really effective in helping to heal people. And I'll model their skills, and I'll put them through my own personality in the way that I see the world. And just like a mixed martial artist, they'll learn the stand-up game of striking, they'll learn the grappling game, they'll learn the submission game. And for me, it's about learning all these skills to make myself as complete as I can when helping a client with whatever their problem, big one being addiction, what I see a lot of people for.
Well, that's really it. Well, I am a martial artist. I'm a grandmaster in karate, black belt in judo, black belt in jiu-jitsu. So if you want to talk about martial arts, I got it. What you're doing is what I've done for over, 30-something, 35, 36, I don't know how many years.
I don't know. You'd have to ask the dinosaurs that started with you.
Yeah, I'm one of the dinosaurs in the industry. I do I'm also have a master's in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I'm a hypnotherapist. I do EMDR, and I rework the EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocesses. Are you familiar with that?
I know it, yeah. I've got a different version that I use, but yeah, very familiar with it.
Right. And so what I did, I rearranged that. I added other modalities to it, and I created what I call TRT, trauma release technique. I added the tonalities of hypnotherapy, the subjectiveness of NLP, and holotropic breathing and the EMDR together. And I get rid of trauma in like in 20, 30 minutes.
Nice.
Hypnosis was really love of mine when I was a little boy. I was 14. I'm 76. And this doctor took a liking to me, and he gave me a book called Melvin Powers, and I read it and I practiced, and I was hypnotizing all the girls in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I got in trouble doing that once.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of problems with that too. And hypnosis, a lot of people don't understand that hypnotherapy is an incredible technology, and it really gets into the subconscious. And tell me a little bit about your process, Luke. I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you.
Yeah. Here's how I work. I used to be very, very structured, right? I used to have the A to the Z. So before I actually take anyone on as a client, we do a free 1 hour screening call. Really, and they fill out a big application form. So I get to find out where they are and where they come from. And then I would go into my program that I'll be working with people, and I would kind of know in my mind what I'd be doing with them. And I did that. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years. And then I realized I was doing them a great disservice because, yes, I needed to know where I was going with them. Example, the person is addicted to cocaine or alcohol. They're addicted in their words, and they want to get to sobriety. They want to get to abstaining and being okay with it. So I know if we're using like Google Maps, the most important thing to put in is where you want to go, sobriety, right? And the second most important thing is where they are now. Well, Luke, I'm drinking.
Well, I'm a recovering addict, just to let you know. I got 38 years in recovery. So, keep going. I'm listening.
Sure. And that first spot is where you are right now. Yeah, so I'm drinking 2 bottles of whiskey a night. So then I realized everyone is different. So even though I may have worked with close to 10,000 people in hypnosis for every kind of problem, and addiction, literally thousands. Let's say I worked with 10 different people today and it was all over cocaine. It's not the same process for everyone because everyone's different. Everyone has their own unique story, narrative, trauma, the thing that brought them to the dance, so to speak. So to go in there to know the A to the Z without actually seeing how they respond when we're actually start the program was doing them a huge disservice. So now, because I'm a bit like you, I've been doing this so long now, I just have an instinct. I know where I need to go. I know where I start. Honestly, I have no frigging idea how I'm going to get there. I just know I've got this amount of time to get there. And so far, I pretty much help them get there every single time. But I'm seeing what they respond to. Because if I go into a classical hypnosis thing and I'm saying, see this and see that, and they don't class themselves as visual, that doesn't hit with them. That doesn't resonate. The work isn't effective. Now, if I'm talking about kinesthetic and do you feel this? Do you feel that? And they don't resonate with feelings, emotions at this present moment. And I'm banging on about that because the script says that. I've lost that client. I ain't helping them. If I'm talking about the sound of my voice and those voices inside your head before you do a line of Coke, before you do a bottle of Jack Daniels or Bacardi, and they're not into logistics, they're not into sound, I've lost them. So the first thing I need to do when I'm in front of them, and it's all virtual that I do now with people, is I need to see what they respond to. And when I see what they respond to, watching their physiology, their breathing patterns, listening to what they say, but also listening to what they don't say and the pauses between things they say and certain words people hang on. In my brain, I'm processing all of this stuff unconsciously, subconsciously, and then coming back with what I need to do with them next. Because I don't care what should work, because I was told when I was young and I was a young pup in this, I was told, well, Luke, if you do this course that you've done for $5,000, if you do this course, it works for everyone all of the time. We know nothing works for everyone all of the time. It's a crock of, and I won't use colorful language because I think you might have a PG rating there. I don't want you guys to get demonetized. but I need to see what everyone responds differently. So when I see them responding, I'm like, I'm gonna work more in this area because they're responding. So I don't care what should work, I care what my client is responding to, because everyone's different, and I need, like, we've got a different thumbprint, they've got a different soul print. When I know how they work, that's how I start to work with them.
Well, I love what you're saying. You and I are on exactly the same page. You got to go where the client is, not where we want to go. And, and then rapport is the most important thing. If you don't have rapport with the patient or the client, you're not going to go anywhere. So if you try to push them in directions, that doesn't work very well. You're right on the money with what you're saying, Luke. So I'm enjoying listening to you, because I'm finally listening to somebody that knows what the heck they're doing. Not that I don't listen to other people that know what they're doing, but, some people have a different version of the world.
Yeah, it's like this. What's the quote? When all you've got is a hammer as a tool,
everything looks like a nail.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I get screws, I get nails, I get all different types of people.
How about wood pegs? No, okay, got it.
Yeah, there you go. So once I see what they respond to, and to go back to your thing with rapport, I disagree with it, and I agree with it. Let me say why. When I was learning all this stuff, everything was about, first most important thing is about getting rapport. If I'm quite honest with you, some of my clients, some of the times, may think I'm an arrogant a-hole. However, I'm not interested in having rapport with their consciousness or their intellect. What I am interested, and the only thing I'm interested, is having rapport with their unconscious, their subconscious, their monkey mind, that essential 5-year-old inside that's causing them to do all those addictive behaviors or whatever the problem is that they don't want to do. Because I know when I get rapport with that part of them, I can help them. They can like me, like, oh, Luke, you're
no, well, I'm not talking about rapport whether they like you or not like you. We're on the same page. I'm talking about that kind of rapport. See, the bottom line, addicts don't believe anybody. First of all, they don't trust anybody, and everybody is a jerk. So, that's just the bottom line. Okay, that's their whole thing. So when they call you up or whenever they're seeing where you're coming from and things, they don't like your beard, or they don't like your tattoos, or they don't like the way you speak, or they'll find everything in the world not to like about you, but they're calling because they're desperate. So when you come and you approach them the proper way, all right, you're going to be in rapport with them anyway. The personality has nothing to do with the rapport.
Yeah,
you're clicking on what their intent is. You're clicking on, that's what you're clicking on. You're not. The rest of the stuff is just fluff.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, yeah, absolutely. And my intention is always, if someone's put their hand up and said, Luke, I need help, then my job, as I see it, is to do whatever I can, as long as it's illegal. As long as it's legal, not illegal. All right. Let's cut that down. As long as it's legal.
Legal, illegal, whatever works.
Why do you think I moved over from London to Canada? I'm going to do whatever I can, as long as it's ethical, non-fattening, got to say that for the ladies, and legal to get them there. So if I've got to give them a metaphorical gang slap, I'm going to do that. If I need to shock them, I'm going to do that. If I have to give them home truths, I'm going to do that. A lot of people come in and they think, and I understand why, they think, well, hypnosis and this, he's going to be an earthy, soft guy. Whatever I say is going to be there. Everything's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. If you're overdosing on cocaine, heroin, alcohol, it's probably not going to be okay. And the reason you're calling me isn't because you're looking for a friend. It's probably because things aren't going to be okay. So I'm not here to like you go into your garden and they've got a bunch of weeds, and those weeds are eating all your flowers. So you can use all the positive affirmations in the world. There are no weeds. There are no weeds. There are no weeds.
Yeah, forget about that. That ain't working.
But if you ain't actually physically going out there and removing those weeds, those friggin' weeds are eating up all your flowers. So I'm there to be a reality check, not to be
So let me ask you a question about the process. So, okay, so they call you up, you get a whole intake on them, you know what's going on with them. You get an understanding by watching their body language, by watching the tonalities in their voice, the way they're speaking, the way they're moving, and from your past experiences, you kind of get an angle of which way to go in.
Yeah.
I got that part. So, do you do the hypnosis on Zoom?
Yeah. So before pandemic, by the way, my cats make a cameo. There we go.
There we go.
Cameo. A round of applause for.
Listen, we got to hypnotize the cat, not to come on screen.
Yeah, she's a glory hound or cat, not a hound, right? Yeah. So everything I do is over Zoom. Before pandemic, I used to have 3 offices: one in Toronto, one in Ottawa, the capital of Canada, and one in Las Vegas that I used to visit once a month. But even before pandemic, about 75% of my clients were online. They'd be in England, they'd be in Australia, they would be in the deep south in America.
Right.
And it would be expensive for them to fly in for a session here or there.
Right.
So I started to work with people, and one of the big concerns with people is like, Luke, I need to see someone face to face, because this stuff only works face to face. Don't you need to see me face to face? How can you do this over a video? To which I would say, don't you need to touch me? To which I say, if the hypnotist is touching you, you should probably get the heck out of there. And because
Luke, I like you.
Keep your hand on your wallet. Right.
So, Luke, let me ask a couple of questions. Okay, so you do an initial workup with them. You hypnotize them. Okay, so now you plant an anchor on them, I guess, and then you give them a call word to go back into their hypnosis to support what you're doing. What is your process?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer that. Don't do that. But I just want to finish the last.
Go ahead.
Yeah, please.
With the Zoom. So people are like, don't I need to be there? How would it work? I'm like, well, the environment we need to change is your head, is inside your mind. So it doesn't matter if we're 5 feet apart in my office or if we're 5,000 miles apart across the Atlantic Ocean. We're going into your mind. So you don't physically need to be here. And in fact, when people would come to my office, the alcoholic, the cocaine addict, the heroin addict, they weren't going to do heroin in my office. They weren't going to do a nub of coke in my office. They weren't going to drink the Jack Daniels in my office, but they were going to do it at home. So by doing the process of Zoom hypnosis in their home, we start to collapse the pattern in their home, a bit like, I call it the Navy SEAL approach, right? The underwater demolition. We're going to the building, the structure of the problem where they do it the most, at home, and I'm planting all that Semtex, all that explosiveness,
right,
so we can blow up the problem from the inside. And like I say, for most people, we talked about anchors a moment ago, a lot of their anchors or triggers potentially at their home. So that's why I would do it over Zoom. And that's why, honestly, it's actually even more effective. My process is different things, but here's how I set it up with people. I say to people, hey, when I was a little kid, I used to like to do the puzzle books, the dot to dot puzzle books. Do you remember the dot to dots where you would join one dot to the next dot, to the next dot, and eventually it would reveal a picture? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
So as a 5-year-old, I used to friggin' love doing this stuff, right? But I remember when I was about 5, my grandmother was looking after me because my mum was in hospital giving birth to my little sister. And I had this puzzle book, this dot to dot book, and I'm joining all the dots together and I can't find the last dot. And I get really frustrated and I get really annoyed. And I go up to my nan and I say, Nan, I'm really frustrated. I didn't say frustrated because I was 5, didn't have the vocabulary then. I'm like, Nan, I'm really angry. And I threw it down in a tantrum. I'm like, can you do this for me? And without missing a beat, she says, no, Luke, I can't do it for you, because if I do it for you, I'll never learn. So the work we're going to do together is a bit like you making those connections inside your head, like the dot to dots. But instead of it being in a puzzle book, it's those neurological connections in your brain. But when you make all these connections in your brain, and I don't know if that'll be today, I don't know if that'll be between now and your second session, I don't know if it will take as long as up to 3 sessions, but you'll make those connections in your brain, those connections that will allow you to have an understanding unconsciously, subconsciously, or consciously, to make that shift, to make that change. Now, I've got a few ways of helping you. Sometimes I might seemingly go off on tangents and tell you stories that seemingly you think have nothing to do with your problem. All my stories have a reason behind them. Sometimes I might get you to tap certain parts of your body. Sometimes I might get you to touch certain parts of your body. Sometimes I might provoke you by poking you a little bit. Sometimes I might ask you to close your eyes, and I might get you to summon up what I call mind experiments, psychological experiments, to bring up unpleasant or pleasant emotions inside your body. Sometimes I might just get you to close your eyes and say, you'll no longer do this problem anymore, and you'll feel amazing. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with you, but it will be something along those lines to help to facilitate you.
Well, you're using your intuition is what you're doing.
Exactly.
And that's the way I work too. I use my intuition. Everybody's different. Everybody connects a different way.
But in lay terms, if I buried everything down, any technique I use, it's to get their conscious, their intellect out of the way. Because I say to people, you've talked to people, because oftentimes I'm not the first call. I'm not the first person who's tried to help this particular client. So I say to them, have you gone to counseling, rehab? Oftentimes people have, almost all of the time. And I say, you've talked about this problem before, haven't you? They're like, yeah. I'm like, and did the talking help you? And they'll be like, yeah, a little bit. And I'll say, well, what I mean by help is did it make the problem disappear? They're like, no, I'm still doing it. Well, obviously that's why we're doing the session together. So I'm like, so if we just keep speaking about your problem, the odds are it's still going to be there, because we're dealing with your consciousness, your intellect. So it makes no sense to keep using the thing that doesn't work. So respectfully, I'm going to, in a moment, ignore this part of you. Ignore your intellect, ignore your intelligence, and I'm going to speak to that 5-year-old inside that pulls all the strings.
That's exactly what I do.
Exactly, and it's going to talk to me.
That's the guy that's in charge. People don't know that.
Exactly, and it might talk to me through body language, through what we call in hypnosis idiomotor responses. Basically, what that means is involuntary movements of the muscle. It may take control of your voice box, and a voice comes out of your mouth, but it's not your adult 35-year-old voice. It's the voice of the problem. And I'm going to speak to it, and it's going to communicate back to me. And I'm going to have a little chat with it and find out why it's been doing X, and see if it can find another way of giving you the same positive benefit. I'm a big believer in, no matter how destructive the behavior is, on some unconscious, subconscious level, there's a positive intent behind it. So whatever the positive intent by it, like say the heroin addict, it might make me forget my trauma when I was 5. Whatever the positive intent was behind it, you're still going to have that protective ability, but you just won't be shooting up that heroin every day, drinking all the alcohol all day, doing too much cocaine, whatever the drug is, opioids.
Well, let me ask you a question. Okay. So you get a guy that calls you up, he's on opioids or opiates, and he's stoned. So he's calling you up and he's still stoned. So how well can you work with somebody that's stoned like that?
Great question. So that has happened to me a couple of times. They have called me up before they've invested any money or anything, and I can hear something's off, right? It's not my first rodeo. And I'll just directly ask them, I'm like, are you under the influence of X, Y, and Z? I'm like, it's not a judgment, I just need to know. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so pretty much everything I'm going to do right now, this is before we've even started to actually work together. This is on the screening call. I'm like, you need to be in a clear frame of mind. So respectfully, if you're under the influence of X, Y, and Z, let's park this screening call. And let's do it another time when you can be clean, cognizant of that call, so we can actually do you a proper service.
Right.
Because we need to set it off on the right foot. And I would never do hypnosis or any change work when someone has just used their drug.
It'll be very difficult to do because they can't focus. So
yeah, they're already in a trance, but
Right.
they're in the wrong kind of trance. So then, but to answer your question, in the old days, I used to let my smokers who wanted to quit smoking, I used to let them smoke all the way up to like just before our session. They'd come in the door and we're about to actually do the change
What are
work.
you smoking with, pot or you smoke cigarettes? You're talking about?
Pot, cigarettes, whatever,
okay.
both. And they would come in, and my first question to them would be, "Hey, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you want to smoke, weed, whatever, or cigarettes?" And they would 10 being, "Oh my god, I want to really do it right now." 0 being not at all, no inkling to do it. And they would say, "Well, Luke, it's a 0 because I just smoked." To which I'd say to them, then if it's a 0 now, we haven't even worked together, in an hour from now, when it's going to be a 0, how the heck are you going to know this stuff worked before you leave my office? To which they said, "Good point." So then I put a policy in place, as long as the drug of choice they could abstain healthily without dying with medical supervision. So I'm not talking about an alcoholic, if they stop cold turkey, they die. No. But stuff like cigarettes or weed or cocaine,
Right.
I would tell them not to do their drug of choice for at least 24 hours before the session.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, now I understand what you're doing.
To treat the session much like you would a surgery, meaning before you have a surgery, they're not going to operate you if you've eaten. They can eat, but if you've done a drug, because I wanted them to come in, and I want that urge to do that drug of choice, as long as it's one that they can stop for 24 hours and not be, in dire straits, because I want it to be high. So when they come in and the urge to do it is an 8, a 9, a 10, and when we're done an hour from now, they don't give me this nonsense or malarkey, as we say back home, like, "Well, Luke, I'll tell you later on how it's done." No, I want you to know before you leave this session today that this stuff's done. If you came in at a 9 and that's a 0, you know it's done. If you came in at a 0 and it's still a 0, you don't know it's done. I want them to have the gift of knowing that this is done, or
right. Well, you need that because they gotta buy into what you're doing. So, and the only way they can buy in is that they self see with themselves what's going on.
Exactly.
Yes, I agree. I do the same thing.
So,
absolutely,
gentlemen. We're coming towards the end of the show already. There's so much information here, Luke. I got to tell you, you're blowing our minds over here. With your thought processes, the fact that you're adaptable in your approach and that you don't believe there's a formula for everyone, that you have to change and adapt, that you recognize the visual, the audio, the kinesthetic, you do all of those things. It's brilliant because a lot of people don't do that.
A lot of people don't do that.
They got their A to Z, they do it, and if you help 1 out of 100 people, you're a lucky guy. But when you're adaptable, you can help a lot. The question I have for you is, when should somebody call you? When should somebody look up Lukenosis? I mean, is it when they are in dire straits, or should this be for maybe people who have started on the path of recovery but are becoming very unstable and they need somebody?
Well, we're just talking about recovery, but there's other things that I think that Luke does. Probably people have they're afraid of flying. People have different different things like that are going on. Anxiety, depression. So hypnosis, really works for a lot of things, but you're doing more than hypnosis. Okay, so you're doing a lot of other things that combine, just like what I do. The same thing. I never found one shoe fits everybody anyway.
For sure.
So, what I looked at, Luke, and I know we're coming to the end of the show. I want to give you some information and stuff because you seem like the same as me. Is that you want to be a student so you can be a good teacher. You need to look medically at people too. We got to ask them those questions. They can have a low thyroid. They can have leaky gut syndrome. They can have H. pylori infection, hypoglycemia, closed head injuries, heavy metal toxicity. All of these things cause depression and anxiety. So whether we do hypnosis with them or we give them Prozac or some other stuff, right? It's really not going to work very well because you have a medical condition that's counteracting that. And if the second brain is the gut. You don't treat the gut, you're out of luck. Look it up. I always tell people, please don't believe a word I tell you. Go look it up for yourself, because that's the only way. People don't believe anything anybody says anyway. So, it's real simple stuff. But, I don't know if you're already looking at that, but if I were you, you might want to consider that, because that's how your work improves. That's how my work improved. So maybe you might want to take a look at that.
Absolutely. And just to answer your question before, Scott, the first time someone should call me, the best time is as soon as the problem starts. No one ever does, by the way, because it's not a problem.
They only call you when they're falling off the roof.
Yeah.
They go, can you help me? Yeah, well, wait a minute, you already fell. I can't help you.
The best time is when it started. No one ever does that. The second best time is now, to break the loop, because every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month, every year you wait, it gets more ingrained into neurology.
Well, you're training your brain is what you do. Your brain seeks pleasurable levels. And what you're doing, you're actually training your brain to do all this. You know who's really good that you may want to consider? I watch him. I was really impressed also, just like I'm very impressed with you. Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Yeah,
you ever see him or hear him?
Yeah, he's very popular now, isn't he, Joe? He's everywhere. People love
He's
that
excellent. And he tells you how thoughts, the same thing we're talking about, you and I, but he takes it, he's a neuroscientist, and he takes it from the beginning all the way through how to change your mind. And you're doing the same work, how to change your mind. So, it's training. What you're doing is retraining the brain. And it takes time. Everybody looks for a quick fix. Listen, guys, I don't know what Luke does or I do, but there is no quick fix. You got to work at this stuff. And that's just the bottom line. It took years to develop this. It takes time to undevelop it and create a new way of life. How much time? It's up to you.
So I'd like to, before we wrap up, there's a question I always like to ask people. And John, you answer this question all the time about why you do what you do. And it's in your book, The Kid from
the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up.
Kid from the South Bronx That Never Gave Up. Great book. Check it out at johngiordano.com. But why do you do this? You seem like that kind of guy. You probably could excel at anything from vacuum sales to politics. Why do this?
Yeah, I was thinking that the last night. I was laying awake. I'm actually fasting at the moment. No food for 14 days. Today,
yeah, I do that too. But we're on the same. Wait a second. You're my brother from another mother. I know.
I love that you're from the Bronx, by the way. I love the Bronx.
From the South Bronx. That's me.
Wait, does it count that I'm fasting because I'm broke? Does that still count?
Sometimes.
It can help.
No, but please.
Fasting is the cheapest way to change your body. You don't need a lot of money to lose weight. Just stop frigging eating so much. But why do I do this? I know we're wrapping up. Here's a quick version of the story. When I was a kid, I had every single problem you can imagine, except I was not sexually abused and I was not addicted to drugs. But I had every other problem that you can imagine. And I tried to kill myself twice before 17. I spent 7-8 years in family therapy. Nothing worked. I was isolated. I was miserable, depressed. I had anxiety before everyone had anxiety. Bullied at school. Horrible relationship with my parents. Everything was down the toilet. It was horrible. And nothing worked. And I got this little audio cassette on hypnosis. It was back in the 90s. So audio cassette. It wasn't even a CD. And it was called Supreme Self-Confidence. And because I had nowhere else to go, nothing else worked, I listened to a generic one-size-fits-all audio cassette. And it changed my friggin' life. And I said to myself, if a generic one-size-fits-all cassette can help me, what if I learned this stuff for real? So then I was 17, I'm 43 now. Then I spent the next quick math, 26 years learning from people far smarter than me, far more elegant than me, how to do this, how to get change with people. And I dedicated my life to it. That's the quick version of the story. I have a 27-minute version of the story as well.
I wrote a book about the story, so it's okay. I understand.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I'm glad that you chose the path that you did.
Yeah, me too. I think it's I train therapists to be therapists, and I had a group of therapists, and it was like we did a mock thing, and they said, well, how does that make you feel when somebody was talking? I said, listen, man, I would even make you guys treat my dog. I says, what do you mean? How does it make you feel? The guy's crying or something's happening. You're asking him, how does that make you feel? What do you think it makes you feel? When I went to school, I went to college. I only went to the 9th grade. I got a GED. Then I got all my certifications because when I went to college to get licensure, I looked at the book when it was printed. It was 7 years old. By the time I got out of school, it was already outdated. It would have been antiquated. So I said, no, this is not for me. I want to see the things that work. So that's why I did into hypnotherapy. I did NLP. I did EMDR. I did holotropic breathing. I did mindfulness. I did all this stuff that I put all together, and then nutrition and all this stuff. Go to my website, and you'll see a lot of the things. You'll see I'm in 79 now medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. Because who's going to listen to the kid from the South Bronx who only went to the 9th grade? All right, so now they listen. Now they ask me what I do. And then if you know, I don't know if you know this, that I started my company with $300 and we turned it into $45 million in 2012. We sold it. Wow. I never thought in a million years that would happen. I was homeless when I started. So all I can tell you is this. That's why I wrote the book, to help motivate people. Not because, oh, look at Johnny made all this money. Forget about that baloney. What I'm saying is, man, my family was a mafia family. My uncle was a hitman. Matter of fact, he killed the caterer at my wedding because he insulted him. So, I mean, if you read my book, you'll learn a lot about that stuff.
Well, you two would make a hell of a podium at a conference, the two of you guys together. Let me tell you right now.
He's right. You're right on the money, and I kind of prejudged this and says, okay, let me see what this guy's going to say.
Well, I think here's the problem, John, is that there's so many people out there passing themselves off as clinical hypnosis. There's people out there passing themselves off as life coaches and as sobriety coaches and as life change coaches. And there's a lot of people out there that are speaking way out of turn and are doing more damage than good.
Absolutely.
I will tell you right now, Beat Your Addiction podcast will recommend Lukenosis,
Absolutely.
.com. We put everything we believe in you.
Listen,
and we believe in what you do.
It's a pleasure talking to somebody that really understands what's going on and keeps looking. That's why I keep looking for new things. Now I'm doing I was always against ketamine treatment and stuff like that. Let me tell you something. Unbelievable. But we added integrative coaching with it. We added group therapy with it. I added treating the gut with it, nutrients with it, hypnotherapy. I do everything with it. Whatever works for that patient, that's what we do. So it's a quick way of getting into the subconscious and actually growing new neurons. And that's what hypnosis does also when done properly, like you're doing. We're on the same page, man. So we should stay in touch.
Totally, man. No, you got a lot of great stories. I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, go to my website, John, the initial J, Giordano.com. You see a lot of crazy stuff that I do.
Cool. And you got to come down and visit because, I mean, I know you're up in Toronto, but you are dressed for Florida right now, brother. So you need to be down here.
Listen, it's -10. No, it's -12 outside.
Oh my goodness!
Last night. I get so hot so quickly, but Florida, I love America, favorite place in the world. And Florida's I just got back from New Orleans. So Florida is in my top 3 places to visit. So definitely want to come to Florida. Universal, the WWE. I'm a big wrestling fan. They have like a wrestling facility there as well. Disneyland for my girlfriend, the Hypno Pixie. So yeah, I'd love to come to Florida.
Oh, well.
All right, listen,
we'd love to
stay in touch. We love what you're doing. We'll recommend you. And I'll pre-apologize because we get some people on that's, different. I'll put it to you that way, but you're right on the money, so I really love it.
There's a good different and there's a bad different. This is a good different.
All right.
I say in life, you can be better, you can be worse, or you can be different. And I love different. Different is good. The right different is good.
That's what makes the world go round, man.
That's what makes things happen.
Okay.
Again, Luke Howard, Lukenosis.com. Check him out. If you have a problem, this might be the solution you've been looking for. Maybe you've tried other things. It's time to start thinking about something else and maybe connecting with that authentic self inside to make the changes in your life. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, stop doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Absolutely. Luke, thank you again for your time. And as for the rest of us,
Thank you, guys.
John, we're coming up on the holidays. We want to wish everybody to be safe and happy during the
And
holiday
these
season.
are tough
of course.
times for people on the holidays. And, people keep telling themselves negative stuff instead of enjoying the moment. People live in the past and they get depressed, and then they live in the future and they get anxious.
Yeah.
And they forget about the present, because the past is where you learn, and there are no failures in life. There are only lessons. And then the future's not here yet, and the present helps you to create your new future. So people got to get on that boat.
That's right. That's right. Spend time with your family. Do one thing nice for somebody else. Do two things nice for yourself today. You'll always have a good day. And everybody out there, please share this with your friends. Sign up and subscribe to our channel. Love to everyone out there. You've been watching Beat Your Addiction with Scott Jones, John Giordano. Y'all take care now.
All right, Luke.